After reviewing Cybertron Downshift last month, I thought I'd give another simple guy a go before the first of those masterpiece train bots turns up in June. Figured I'd go for something relatively recent that I feel has been sort of overlooked by a lot of people, and so eventually I settled on Studio Series Perceptor. And then I got Kickback, and Kickback's really quite nice, so we're doing Kickback instead. We'll circle back to Perceptor another day, okay? Now, I had no intentions of getting Kickback here. Never had any nostalgia for the Insecticons. They weren't figures I played with as a child, and I never owned any other versions later on, so I just never had that sort of drive to collect them. Just not been on my radar much, I guess. Anyway, I was over in the Smiths in Farnborough looking for a Skids, which was on a way too high shelf, so I had to get the help of a teenager to get it down for me. A few shelves lower, at a more sensible eye level, I saw Kickback, and he kind of caught my eye. I'd seen promo shots and a few photos on Twitter, but seeing him in person really made all the difference. I think it's the translucent yellow on his chest here. There's something about clear parts and the implication of robot tech underneath that's always appealed to me. It's a bit sci-fi, innit? But I wasn't prepared for how much nicer he'd get when I got him outside the box. He comes with his wings folded down and a bit obscured in the box, but once I raised them up I realised what kind of eye-wrangling beauty they were. They're just plain clear, but they're full of all this little insectoid detail that really just makes them pop. There's also these clear purple swords that just look gorgeous with their slight colour fade going on. You can keep them in his hands, or you can attach them to the side of his wings to give them a bit of an enhanced look. Maybe I would have liked it if they fit directly on top of the wings, but it works for me either way. Would have been nice if they could combine into one sword. They kind of look like they do, but the best you can get is this sort of offset sword thing going on. Still, it all looks rather pretty, doesn't it? The only other accessory you get is this little spacey Tommy gun of his, which looks neat, but it's not going to take away the attention from these wing blades, is it? As for the rest of the bot, he's basically all black except for a few splashes of colour here and there. Purple feet and forearms and a bit of red and yellow on the legs. Face feels pretty spot on too with his emotionless countenance and his Bret Hart style red shades. The yellow antennae look the part too, but they're made out of this sort of rubbery plastic which didn't really want to move properly at first, which made me a little bit unsure about moving them during transformation in case they sort of permanently bent out of shape. There's a few curious elements of the bot I want to focus on. Firstly and most obviously is the chest panel that I mentioned earlier. There's clearly a hinge at the bottom, and it looks like it'd open up, just like the original G1 toy did, except it can't. There's tiny tabs on the side of the chest preventing it from happening. Apparently there's nothing under there. Bit weird that there's an actual hinge though, isn't it? Has a metal bar through it and everything. Also, what's with these little tabs either side of his back panel? Looks like something should connect in there. Oh, by the way, you can neatly plug his gun into the hole in his back, so it stores away nicely. Poseability is pretty standard with a few extra little touches thanks to the transformation. Everything moves with the sort of range you'd expect, but thanks to the hinges for the leg transformation, you can get a little bit of an extra bicep curl out of him. I like to use that to get the sword to go over his shoulder, a little bit like Shinken Red. You can also hyperextend his leg forward a little bit, like he's in the middle of some comic book running pose. Shall we transform this bug? It's incredibly simple, which if you watched my last review you know that I appreciate greatly. You're basically giving him a lie down, splitting his arms apart to make a pair of front bug legs, popping out the rear bug legs and folding away his toes. You swing his wings around and turn the head over and then just cover his robot face with a little panel that helps complete the grasshopper head look. And that's about it. You can plug the gun in underneath and then pop the swords on the wings if you want that sort of Energon enhanced look, which I do. You can also combine the swords and plug them into his butthole to make a sort of 4-axe mode, which you probably all know about by now thanks to a reveal that happened recently. This really does nail that modern take on a G1 toy look perfectly, doesn't it? Something Hasbro have been pretty good at recently. They seem to have perfected channeling our rose-tinted view of what the toys looked like when we were kids into modern designs. Had a similar reaction to Grimlock's Slug and Perceptor recently. Like, nailing that classic but new look for Transformers isn't really usually that tricky. Most of them turn into cars, so if they look like a car and then look like a car that's also a bot, they've kind of done the job. It's when they turn into these more mechanical looking creatures, which I've always been a fan of, that I've always felt has been a little bit off until now. Although I guess previous generation toys weren't always going for 100% G1 accuracy, were they? Kickback here has made me want to go all in on the Insecticons, assuming they'll be doing them all. especially if we get the deluxe Insecticons, which it looks like we are because Ransack got revealed in between writing this script and recording it. I'm kind of wondering if they'll be reissuing this mould somewhere down the line as a Studio Series 86 version on him. Could imagine a few tweaks to the paint scheme to make him a bit more G1 cartoon accurate, but if they cover that clear plastic panel with just matte yellow paint, he'll lose a little bit of his eye-catching quality. Hopefully if they're doing Bombshell and Shrapnel, they'll be easy to get and not packed away in some store-exclusive pack that only exists online for 4.3 femtoseconds. And yeah, that's Kickback. He's not a complex figure, he looks great, he transforms in seconds, and hits that G1 nostalgia feeling just right. No, you had his fist transformed wrong the whole time. Sure, we all complain about the G1 with elbows thing that Hasbro seems to be doing these days, but this figure does kind of show that there's still a few characters that we're only just getting the perfect modern interpretation of. For real though, ease off a little bit, Hasbro. Legacy is meant to be putting the S in generations, and so far it's mostly G1 and G1 adjacent stuff. Like G2, Beast Wars and Diaclone is all sort of wrapped in that G1 sphere still, isn't it? How about some Bayverse bots or animated or Kiss players? Maybe not the last one. But yeah, this lad's great, and despite what I just said, Kickback kind of proves that I am a sucker for a good G1 bot, and I should be ashamed of myself. Thanks for watching, do the like and subscribe, and if you fancy it, give me a follow at Wild Will's Hat on Twitter. Catch you later, folks.